Hey everybody, I'm Queen and this is New World Tarot. If you care to subscribe to the channel, please do. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. Alright, so I came to bring you guys a video today. This is a really interesting conversation I ran across while I was just scrolling through, trying to find some content for today. And I ran into this really interesting conversation. Now, the funny thing is, this conversation happened 3 years ago, and I don't know where the hell I was at 3 years ago, probably working like a maniac. But the conversation was so interesting. I was like, let me share this with y'all, because let me just make this clear. When we talk about black men in society and the way that they complain about laws and how they're alpha males and all of this and all of that. Well, there's this guy, his name is Joe Rogan. I'm not really sure if you all have heard of him, but he is a Caucasian male, and he has a show where he sits and he has these interesting conversations with people. This one I wanted to share with you all, but I also want y'all to leave me some comments and let me know what y'all think about this, because I hear black men saying the complete opposite of what I hear a lot of happening in this conversation. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. All right, so here we go. It's a bit lengthy. I have normally do my readings for this type of length, but we gonna let it rock and we gonna see what they're talking about.
Another one people got really mad about. This is weirdly the one we got the biggest reaction to. And to the extent that I'm a little hesitant talking about it, because it always starts a shitstorm every time I do.
Vaccines?
No, actually, we've not done a whole one on vaccines, but we really should, because it's coming back. I used to think that vaccines was like kind of done as a topic, and we've gone through it. It is really back, and it is big. But no, we did one on alpha males. We did an episode about dating. And we did one on how the idea of the alpha male doesn't exist in humans. Like, if you talk to any anthropologist, any biologist, any sociologist, right, and be like, are humans organized in a social relationship where there's alphas and betas? They'll be like, no, what are you talking about? This is an unscientific idea, right? And we just did something laying that out in the context of like people who are, oh, my type is I like alphas, right? Well, there's no such thing, actually. Humans are you're dominant in some situations, not in others, right? It's an overly simplistic way of looking at human relationships. And I thought that was a pretty simple, straightforward thing. I was like, this is just a bit of pseudoscience that you hear people tossing out. And people went ballistic on the internet, because people have sort of like built a edifice of ideology in their minds about like, there's alphas, there's betas, I'm an alpha, this is what an alpha's like, this is what a beta's like,
Let me just say something real quick, okay, about the entrance into this conversation. Now, if you are a person who is a black woman, or if you date black men, a lot of you have heard a lot of black men state that they are alpha males. Okay, they take this whole alpha thing very seriously, and some of them actually do build their entire life and their entire existence around this whole alpha male theology. Okay, so I just want you guys to follow me, pay attention. I know this is a little different than what I normally do, which I just started, doing this, but work with me. We gonna get to something, okay?
And
well, let's take away the words.
Yeah,
they're clearly men who are more aggressive and athletic and dominant and more confident, and then men who are introverted and shy and more nervous and anxious. And there's a scale
in some situations,
social situations. And that's what we're talking about, right?
In social, but your social situation could change based on what situation you're in. You know what I mean?
Could, but like an athletic, confident male. Mm-hmm. Is always going to be an athletic, confident male, and an introverted, anxious male who has problems with social anxiety is going to be the same. That's who that person is.
Okay, now you notice how Joe Rogan said that men are not prone to adjusting to their environment. So he said, if you are a confident, athletic male, you're going to always be that. And if you're a shy, introverted male, you're going to always be that. Now, let me just say this too. in the comment section, of course, the guy who is bringing the argument forward about there not being an alpha and beta male, of course, he got dragged because a lot of men, you know, like he said, literally build their existence around this whole alpha male thing. But let's keep going.
Necessarily, but so when we're talking about alphas, right? In animals, what is that? It's a social hierarchy, right?
When in animals.
Yeah.
So let's take away that word. I mean, what people are using to describe when they're saying alphas and betas, they're saying like confident, strong, secure people, and people that are anxious.
Sure.
And
now notice Joe Rogan took out the animal thing that they brought into it. Now remind you, okay, people, men and women's behavior is based off of animal behavior. So when you remove animals, he said animals, and he's like, all right, well, let's just remove the word, right? So now he wants to remove the word and just deal with the actual behavior. But what he is forgetting and trying to throw in the trash is the fact that human behavior is studied and based off of animal behavior. Let's keep going.
So if you're trying to say, hey, like, it's good to be confident, it's not so great to be anxious, like that's fine, right? But when people talk about alpha males and beta males, right, they're specifically bringing in the language of like evolution, of biology, of zoology, of evolutionary psychology, you know, and they'll start saying stuff like, well, there's alphas and there's betas, and women are hardwired to be attracted to the alpha, you know, because that's what it's like in nature. Like, they'll be using that language, right? And so what we're pointing out is that's not scientific. Right?
It's not scientific, but it is true that women are hardwired to be attracted to confident, athletic men.
I don't know if I agree with that. But
really?
Yeah.
You don't think that women look at like pro athletes and like big, strong, athletic men, and you don't think they're drawn to that for evolutionary reasons?
No, I don't actually. I think that.
Okay, do you think that men are drawn to women with small waists and big hips and large breasts for evolutionary reasons?
You know, I think that's an easy. I think what that is that's an easy intuition to come to if you're like looking at the way people behave, right? But one of the things about evolutionary psychology is it's the most common mistake to look at the way that people do behave and say the reason we behave that way is because evolution says that's the best way, right? That's their argument. For instance, I'll give you an example. That's the argument arguments like that were used, for instance, to justify slavery, right? That like, oh, because, you know, whites and blacks have this hierarchical relationship in American society, that's the way it was intended. That's how nature intended it to be, right? But we can't.
That's a giant leap. We're just talking about like the shapes of bodies. Like, men universally are attracted to a certain shape of.
Now, if you pay attention, you see how when Joe Rogan is put on the spot, he'll instantly gaslight this man and try and change the subject. But I like the other guy. His name is Adam Conover, and he makes sure that he brings that point back home. He's like, listen, this is what they used to use to control slaves, because they were like, oh, well, the black men are bigger, they're more athletic, they're faster, the women, you know, are darker, they can stay in the sun. He's bringing up really valid points that Joe Rogan is trying to ignore because he's in his alpha male. Let's keep going.
There's men that are attracted to different ones, and
I don't think men are universally attracted to the same
vary,
body.
but that hourglass shape has been throughout time something that men are attracted to.
I think that hourglass shape is something throughout our recent cultural memory that we tell each other that men are attracted to, right? That's what we're told from an early age. To this is the sort of women that men are attracted to, and so a lot of men end up adopting that, right? But I don't think that deep down that's how men naturally are. You know?
Really?
Yeah, I read
this.
So
that doesn't make any sense to me. That's so non-intuitive.
I want you ladies to pay attention to the way the alpha male thinks. I want you to dissect this man's mind. If you have to go back and watch this video again, I want you to listen to him, okay? In his mind, all men are attracted to an hourglass shape. But if you watch Cynthia's Who They Really Choose, that's clearly not the truth. Let's keep going.
Where do you think it started? Where do you think this narrative of men being attracted to the woman with large breasts and a small waist and a big ass, Where do you think that started? Because this is like evolutionary biology is pretty much settled on the idea that the reason why is that the large hips would indicate that the woman would be easier to give birth. Having large breasts and a large ass would indicate that she has she's fertile, and then she has ample fat storage in the right places if she's going to be pregnant and carry children. But
Y'all hear this?
like evolutionary biology reasons why people are attracted to certain things. Why a woman would be attracted to a tall, muscular, handsome man, good genetics, very strong and confident, can take care of her. All these things are based on evolutionary biology. So I don't understand why you think these are learned sort of cultural artifacts.
Now, did y'all catch that? He threw in, now after he mentioned a tall, athletic, fit man, he threw in he can take care of her. Typical of the so-called alpha man, okay? We aren't talking about somebody who can take care of you. We're talking about physical attraction, okay? Not provisions. That's what this Adam Conover dude is trying to draw home. So, let's get back to it.
My question is, this is an assumption that we, the public, make about how evolutionary biology works, right?
Well, it's more of a thing that we sort of agree on.
Well, we as the, like, there's an idea among the public that this is true. I don't know if it's a scientific idea. That's my point.
I've had conversations with evolutionary biologists who explain the reason why men are attracted to certain shapes and why women are attracted to certain shapes. This is sort of, I mean, this is science in a way. The reason why they're attracted to tall men that are muscular and confident is because that is what's always saved you throughout history. I mean, it only makes sense, doesn't it?
That would probably make sense for women who've actually been saved. Pay attention, black women.
Well, just because it makes the point of our show, right, is that just because something makes intuitive sense doesn't mean that it's necessarily true, right?
But don't you think that in this case that this is a varied argument? Like, I don't think that's something that you can dismiss.
I don't dismiss it, but I don't assume the truth of it simply because that's what, everybody agrees upon, right?
But if you ask girls, like, what are you into? And you say, are you into tall, muscular, confident men who are also nice to you? Jesus Christ, it's going to be off the charts. It's going to be like most of them.
I'm really not sure that's the case.
Really?
So basically what's happening here, ladies, if you're paying attention and if you're following along with the conversation, one man is speaking from a very simplistic and realistic point of view. The other man is speaking from his ego. Because we know for an absolute fact that in 2022, women are not being attracted to men based off of their athleticism because they can rescue them. That's not what's happening. What we're seeing is a bunch of orgies going on. Let's just be real, okay? Pay attention.
You had like a survey of women, and if the men were equally kind and equally intelligent and friendly, you don't think that more women would be sexually attracted to these tall, handsome men with great bodies?
I mean, look, I'm not gonna say that. Like, first of all, you're positing like a value judgment in it that the bodies are great, right? So, like, are women attracted to attractive bodies? If that's the question, then I would say
dad
of course.
Bods are more attractive to women. Study finds some fucking guy with a dad bod.
Look, here's something that I was really influenced by.
What do you think of that? What I just said, though, that doesn't make sense to you. That women would be attracted to someone who's fit.
Look, I mean, it's a hypothetical, right? Like, certainly athleticism, right, is something that is attractive, right? That's something that many people find attractive, right? Not everybody finds that attractive. And I don't think that we can necessarily reason backwards to a specific evolutionary relationship, right? Because the truth of what those evolutionary relationships are is like often a lot more complicated than our immediate intuition about it. And what we're specifically pushing back against in that segment is like the really sort of unscientific
use of alpha and beta.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, you've got people, just on internet forums, like sort of doing amateur pseudoscience, right? Saying like, this is how the relationships between men and women are like designed evolutionarily.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see how the Adam guy, he brought the conversation back to what the point of it all is. It is not about, oh, you're attracted to somebody's body because they're going to come and rescue you. The reality of it is, people is using the alpha male and beta male titles in order to control, in order to dominate, in order to pretend that they are something that they're not. A lot of times it's a facade. People are using these tools in order to, let's say, be abusive to women. Because a lot of times those alpha males don't stick around. They get it, hit it, quit it. Pay attention.
We're just pointing out on a very, very simple level, like the alpha and beta social hierarchy theory, right? That like humans are organized in a social hierarchy and alphas are above betas. Not true, right? Even someone who is the person who you posited, right? The person who is athletic and confident, right? The the high school football quarterback, right? Versus the high school football nerd, right? Well, take those two people and then put them in a different situation, right? If those two people are like in gym class together, right? Of course, the high school quarterback is like on the top of that social interaction, right? Looking at the sort of, classic wolf pack model, they're the one who's sort of running the show, right? And the other guy's like hanging out in the bleachers, talking to his friends, right? Or talking to nobody because he's a beta in that situation, right? If you then take that kid and then you send that kid to like nationals, right, or whatever, and that kid, take the quarterback character, and he's suddenly like, from the little podunk town, right? He's not from the big school. He's like way down on the totem pole, right? That person is no longer going to be in that high social hierarchy, right? And if you take that nerd and you put that, take that kid, maybe he's the dungeon master of his, Dungeons and Dragons group, right? That kid is going to be the alpha in that situation, right? That's how humans work. Humans aren't organized in sort of like little pods that stay together for life and there's one person who's dominant the whole time.
Now, did you guys hear what he broke down? He brought He brought the point home. Alpha and beta situation is exactly what it is. It's a situation. It's not a lifestyle. It's not a behavior. It's an environment. Okay, so if you dominate in a certain environment, you're going to be seen as the alpha. If it's an environment that makes you uncomfortable, or it's an environment where you are not the dominant one, like he just gave the scenario, then you become the beta as opposed to the alpha. Pay attention.
And that's the simple point that we were making in that piece, right?
And people got upset.
Yeah, people got upset because there are so many people who, we talked about this later on the show, there's this idea called the backfire effect, right? Where when people are told something that they don't agree with, that when someone has told somebody a fact, when somebody is told a fact that contradicts like a really deeply held belief, it can often cause them to disbelieve it even when it's true, right? And fight back even harder.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that happens is because of an idea called identity protective cognition. It's if the fact that is being debunked is literally part of your identity, like if it's something that you believe really, really deeply, it's incredibly hard for you to disbelieve it, right? The classic example of this is like, Sean Hannity doesn't believe in climate change, right?
Really?
Well, you know what? I actually don't know that specifically what Sean Hannity thinks about climate change. So let's just say somebody who's made their whole career on climate change doesn't exist,
okay,
right? All their friends are in the anti-climate change community, right? They met their wife at an anti-climate change fundraiser. You know what I mean? They make their money. They write a new anti-climate change book every year, right? Now, climate change is real, right? There's no evidence I could present that person with that is going to make them take the social risk of ending all their relationships, changing their whole life, right? Because if they were to say, okay, you know what? Actually, I'm convinced climate change is real, they would lose all their friends, their wife would leave them, they would lose their revenue stream. They can't possibly come to that conclusion, right? And so they fight back so super hard, right? And so that's what ended up happening with that segment. There's a whole group of people who have built their whole lives on the idea there's alphas and betas, I'm an alpha, I'm not going to be a beta.
And this is what happens in a lot of relationships. A lot of women flock to men that they believe to be alpha. And then once they get to know these men, they find out that, hey, this is not an all the time thing. This is a social thing. When you hear people in relationships say, oh, she cheated on me with this punk ass, or he cheated on me with that fat bitch, or you cheated on me with a midget, or he cheated on me with she cheated on me with this skinny mother or this pretty boy. You get what I'm saying? It's a social status. And that's where a lot of this toxic masculinity is coming from, because men tend to think that this is a behavior that you're supposed to walk around with in church, at the store, with your friends, at the chess contest, at the family reunion, when alpha has nothing to do with behavior. It has everything to do about dominance in a specific environment. Okay, you could be an alpha male all you want, but if somebody put your ass in the woods with some lions and some tigers and bears, I bet you be out there screaming like a bitch like the rest of the females. You ain't gonna be no alpha then. Pay attention.
Right? And so, and maybe that meant something positive to them. Maybe they were in a bad place in their life, and through this model of alpha versus beta, they started working out, or they started, improving themselves a little bit, right? And maybe they started acting a little bit more confidently, and now they're in a relationship, right? All those things can be true with the idea of alphas and betas and humans not being scientific, right? But so when I tell them that, they fight back really hard. They're like, no, this is real, And so that video, which again, I had no idea that would be controversial, got the most YouTube response videos, got the most, furious things from it. And the weirdest thing was, people started to say, this is political. Like, why is Adam Ruins Everything getting political? I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
How is that political?
I have no idea. I have no idea how it's political.
Alphas and betas are now political?
I mean, that's what people were saying. I guess, for some people it's become that, but because they see it as part of, like, I don't know, whatever argument they're in their head they're having about feminism or something like that. But to me, I'm just like, guys, in dating, right, in life, like, this is not a real concept. If you want to say, I'm going to be confident tomorrow, I'm not going to tell you that's not going to help you out, I am a little bit reticent to make, like, a broad conclusion about evolutionary psychology, right? But I can tell you, again, go talk to any anthropologist, any biologist, any, sociologist. Is there such a thing as alpha males in humans?
In the strictest scientific sense of the word,
yeah, exactly.
No, I think they're looking at it in terms of, like, winners and losers, pushovers and people who get the job done, confident people versus people who are not confident. But I think you're correct, and I think, obviously, humans operate on a giant spectrum. And if you start going around saying alpha and beta, and the idea that all alphas are the same or all betas are the same, it's just as ridiculous as the idea of saying all Democrats are the same or all Republicans. It becomes an ideology.
Exactly.
It's a pro-male ideology, which I have the biggest problem with, like, overconfident men's rights guys.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, listen, we have all the rights.
Yeah.
Like fucking settle down.
Yeah, we got enough of them.
I had a whole bit about it. I was like, it's like divorce laws, and that's it. Yeah. Everything else is stacked in our favor. Yeah.
Truth well put. Okay? These men sat here and admitted that alpha and beta is based off of your environment. They not only admitted that, but they also, even though they took a minute to get to the point, but they also admitted that black men are lying about women having all these rights and these laws for women and all of this. The only laws that lean in women's favor is when a man walk off and leave his family. That's the only time. And a lot of times those aren't even that fair, because a lot of black women ain't getting nothing but $40 a month per child. Okay, if she lay up and have a bunch of kids with a dusty. So I just wanted to bring this video to you guys so you could, like, I really got a kick out of this video. I'm telling y'all, it had me going. I was in here talking like, what? Tell it. Okay, but what I want to say about the conversation is these are the type of intelligent conversations that two Caucasian men can sit down and have. And a lot of times when we hear black men having conversations like this, they'll have a whole group. It'll be like 6 or 7 guys, and they'll all believe that they're alphas. You won't have a man like this, like Adam. And when you do have a man like Adam, a lot of times he's called the simp. Adam would be one of those guys that would be considered a Russell Wilson. right? He would be the guy who is kind of shy, the guy that's kind of not as confident unless he's, you know, within his sport or within what he does well. But he's not going to be the one walking up on females in the club like, what's up, ma? What's good with you? You can just tell from the way he carry himself, right? But then let's take Future, for instance. Future looked like he'll walk right in the club with a blunt in his mouth, a cup in his hand, and walk up to every woman that he think look good. What's up, girl? Come holler at me. Come, you know, come fuck with me. I'm Future. And of course, Future does have the means to actually be able to take care of a woman, right? And men like him. But look at what he does. He goes around, he makes babies, he abandons them, and he fails to support these children. A lot of his baby mothers have come forward and said that they do whatever they need to do to take care of their kids, and he parents when he feels like it. So this is the difference, right? Alpha males put on a show, and then once the veil is pulled from off of them, then the women are like, oh, wait a minute, okay, so you just a bitch ass nigga with an attitude, right? So niggas with attitudes is what we gonna start calling them, y'all. Okay? But I'm just saying that this right here was a very interesting conversation, and I wanted to share it with y'all because I felt like if it got me going, I know y'all probably finna go in this comment section, but I really want to hear what y'all think about this. Who did y'all agree with? Joe Rogan is the guy that had the little bit of a deeper voice, but he was talking to, you know, male alpha shit like, oh, men are, you know, attracted to women with a big ass and big titties and all this other shit. And the other guy was, to me, being more reasonable when it comes to actual human behavior. Because I feel like if a man, like say for instance, he's a so-called alpha male, right? And he wants that good girl. Remember like in the 90s, it was a thing where like the good girls used to go for the bad guy. I don't think an alpha male would treat a good girl the way he would treat a girl who was kind of with the same type of energy that he has, the so-called alpha female that I've been hearing about lately, right? But I wanted to touch on this subject because I thought it was interesting. Please make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and let me know what y'all think, all right? I'm just saying. Later, y'all.